The alien coalition fleet hung in space beyond the seventh planet, watching energy readings that challenged everything they thought they knew about physics. Fleet Commander Zixandra studied the displays with a mixture of awe and terror. The humans had demonstrated capabilities that made her massive fleet look like children playing with toy boats. "Commander," her science officer reported, "the human star is returning to normal parameters, but our sensors indicate the defensive modifications remain active. They can reactivate the system at will." Zixandra nodded slowly. The implications were staggering. Humanity possessed the ability to turn their solar system into an impregnable fortress using nothing but stellar engineering and gravitational manipulation. No conventional military force could threaten such defenses. "Open a channel to Admiral Carter," she ordered. "Priority diplomatic frequency." Carter's voice came through immediately with the same calm professionalism he had maintained throughout the crisis. "Fleet Commander, how may we assist you?" "Admiral Carter." Zixandra began carefully. "The Galactic Confederation owes humanity an apology. Our intelligence report suggested you possessed dangerous weapons, but we never imagined capabilities of this magnitude. We request permission to open formal diplomatic negotiations." "Permission granted, Commander," Carter replied. "However, I suggest we conduct discussions in person rather than over communication channels. Would you and your senior staff care to join me aboard my flagship for coffee and conversation?" 2 hours later, Zixandra and representatives from all 17 coalition species sat around a conference table aboard the human vessel Independence. The ship was surprisingly modest compared to alien standards. No massive weapons arrays or intimidating architecture. Just functional design focused on practical operations. Admiral Carter served coffee from a standard dispenser and offered pastries that had been baked in the ship's galley. The casual atmosphere was completely at odds with the magnitude of what they had just witnessed. Admiral, began the hegemony representative, "We must ask directly. Do you intend to use your stellar modification capabilities for offensive purposes?" Carter sipped his coffee thoughtfully before responding. "Our defensive system was designed for exactly that purpose. Defense. We have no interest in conquering other worlds or threatening other civilizations. We simply wanted to ensure that our home system could never be successfully invaded." Diplomat Carol Stevens entered the conference room carrying data pads with formal proposals. She had spent her career preparing for exactly this type of negotiation. First contact with multiple alien civilizations under crisis conditions. "Honored representatives," she began, "humanity appreciates your concerns about galactic stability. We understand that our capabilities might seem threatening from an outside perspective. However, we would like to propose a different arrangement than conquest or surrender." The consortium admiral leaned forward with obvious interest. "What kind of arrangement?" Carol activated a holographic display showing trade routes and resource-sharing agreements. "Mutual cooperation based on comparative advantages. Humanity excels at large-scale engineering projects. Your civilizations possess faster-than-light travel and advanced manufacturing technologies we lack. You're proposing a trade partnership?" asked the Federation delegate. "Exactly," Carol replied. "We can help solve engineering challenges that require stellar-scale resources. You can provide transportation and manufacturing capabilities that would take us centuries to develop independently." Dr. Amy Rodriguez joined the discussion with data about human psychology and motivations. Honored delegates, humanity has always been more interested in building than destroying. We prefer creation to conquest. Our stellar modifications represent the largest construction project in our history. The alien representatives exchanged glances, with expressions ranging from confusion to cautious hope. They had come expecting to fight a war against a dangerous enemy. Instead, they found engineers who wanted to build better lives for everyone. Dr. Rodriguez asked the Science Collective observer, "Why did your species develop such advanced defensive capabilities if you truly prefer peaceful cooperation?" Amy smiled at the question. "Because peaceful species need protection from those who are less peaceful. Our history taught us that good intentions alone are not sufficient to guarantee security. Sometimes you need the ability to make attack impossible rather than simply inadvisable." Admiral Carter nodded in agreement. "We learned long ago that the best way to avoid war is to make war pointless. Our defensive system ensures that no one can conquer Earth regardless of their military capabilities. This gives us the freedom to focus on cooperation rather than competition." Back on Earth, President Nancy Foster addressed the world in a special broadcast. The revelation of humanity's hidden capabilities had shocked the planet as much as it had shocked the aliens. Citizens who thought they lived on a defenseless world discovered they actually lived in the most protected system in known space. "My fellow humans," Nancy began, "today we revealed capabilities that we have kept secret for decades. The Stellar Modification Project represents the work of thousands of scientists, engineers, and technicians over multiple generations." She gestured toward images of the alien fleet now positioned peacefully in the outer system. "Our visitors came here believing we posed a threat to galactic stability. They were partially correct. We do possess capabilities that could be threatening if misused. However, we built these capabilities for defense, not conquest." At Princeton University, Dr. Kevin Lane found himself suddenly famous as news organizations discovered his role in the Stellar Engineering Project. His theoretical physics research had provided the mathematical foundation for manipulating stellar magnetic fields on command. Professor Lane asked a reporter, "How long have humans been capable of stellar modification?" Kevin considered the question carefully. "We've understood the theoretical principles for about 30 years. The practical engineering took another 20 years to implement. The system became fully operational only 5 years ago. Why was this kept secret from the public? Because we knew that other civilizations would eventually discover our activities," Kevin explained. "We wanted to be fully prepared before making any announcements. Today's demonstration proved that our caution was justified." In the asteroid belt, engineer Tony Martinez finally stopped whistling and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The exotic matter containment fields he had maintained for years had performed flawlessly during the demonstration. The gravitational wave generators had operated exactly as designed. "Martinez to Earth control," he reported. "All systems returning to standby mode. Exotic matter fields are stable and ready for future activation if needed. Copy, Martinez," came the reply. "Excellent work. Take the rest of the day off. You've earned it." On Mars Colony Administrator Ryan Clark watched the alien scout ships depart with friendly waves from his mining crews. The aliens now understood that the mining operations served dual purposes: resource extraction and planetary engineering on a scale that defied conventional understanding. "Sir," his assistant asked, "what happens now that everyone knows the truth about our operations?" Ryan smiled as he watched human and alien ships beginning to establish regular communication patterns. "Now we can stop pretending to be simple miners and start showing our visitors what we can really accomplish when we put our minds to it." The final diplomatic session took place aboard Admiral Carter's flagship, with all parties present. The alien coalition had reached a unanimous decision about how to proceed with human relations. Admiral Carter, Fleet Commander Zixandra, announced formally, "The Galactic Confederation withdraws its demands for human surrender. We recognize that your defensive capabilities make conquest impossible and your peaceful intentions make it unnecessary." Furthermore, added the Federation representative, "We would like to invite humanity to join the Galactic Confederation as a full-member civilization. Your engineering capabilities would be valuable additions to our collective knowledge base." Carol Stevens reviewed the formal invitation documents with obvious pleasure. "We accept your invitation with gratitude. However, we propose a gradual integration process that respects both human independence and galactic protocols." "Agreed," replied the consortium admiral. "We suggest beginning with limited trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Full political integration can wait until both sides are more comfortable with the arrangement." Admiral Carter stood and raised his coffee cup in a toast. "To peaceful cooperation between civilizations that choose understanding over conquest." The alien representatives raised their various drinking vessels in response. To understanding. As the alien fleet prepared to depart Earth's system, the final revelation came from an unexpected source. 8-year-old Katie Sullivan asked her teacher a question that nobody else had thought to ask. "Mrs. Brooks," Katie said during their afternoon science lesson, "if we can make the sun do what we want, why don't we use it to help people on other planets too?" Helen Brooks smiled at her student's innocent wisdom. "That's an excellent question, Katie. Perhaps that's exactly what we should do." The news media picked up Katie's suggestion, and within days, human scientists were proposing stellar engineering projects to help struggling. Fleet Commander Zixandra had reached the end of her patience. 5 days of searching had revealed nothing but peaceful human settlements and standard defensive installations. Her science teams found no evidence of the ultimate weapons that 17 intelligence sources had described. Her tactical officers were beginning to question whether the threat had ever existed. "Commander," her communications officer announced, "we are receiving another transmission from the human admiral." "Put it through," Zixandra ordered with visible frustration. Admiral Carter's voice filled the bridge with its characteristic calm professionalism. "Fleet Commander Zixandra, this is Admiral Carter. We have completed our consideration of your surrender demands. We are prepared to show you what you came here to find, but we strongly recommend that your fleet withdraw to a safe distance first." Zixandra's tactical display showed human ship movements throughout the solar system. For the first time since their arrival, human vessels were changing positions, but they were not fleeing or preparing for battle. Instead, they seemed to be moving away from something. "Admiral Carter," Zixandra replied, "we demand immediate access to your hidden weapons installations. No more delays, and no more deception." "No deception, Commander," Carter responded. "We will show you exactly what your intelligence sources detected. However, for your own safety, we suggest you move your ships beyond the orbit of the 7th planet. What we are about to reveal operates on a rather large scale." Zixandra studied the tactical display with growing suspicion. The human fleet was, indeed, withdrawing to the outer system. Their space stations were powering down non-essential systems. Mining operations were shutting down equipment and moving personnel to shielded facilities. "Commander," her science officer reported, "the humans appear to be preparing for some kind of large-scale energy event. Their electromagnetic shielding is coming online across multiple installations." "Weapons charging," Zixandra asked. Unknown, sir. The energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases. Zixandra made her decision. All ships withdraw to beyond the seventh planet orbit. Maintain combat readiness and prepare to record whatever the humans are planning. As the massive alien fleet pulled back to what they assumed was a safe distance, Engineer Tony Martinez made final adjustments to the communication satellites in the asteroid belt. His whistling had stopped. The routine maintenance work was complete, and now came the moment he had trained for his entire career. Control, this is Martinez, he reported over the secure channel. Exotic matter containment fields are stable and ready for activation. Gravitational resonance harmonics are locked and synchronized. Copy, Martinez, came the reply from Earth Control. Stand by for countdown. On Mars, Colony Administrator Ryan Clark sealed the final mining tunnel and activated the deep excavation sites. What the aliens had mistaken for ice and mineral extraction was actually something far more sophisticated. The mining operations had been carefully designed to access specific geological formations deep beneath the Martian surface. Mars Control to Earth Command, Ryan reported. Geological resonance points are active and synchronized. Deep core tap is ready for initialization. At Princeton University, Dr. Kevin Lane dismissed his physics class early and walked to the observatory dome. His students had no idea that their professor's theoretical research was about to become very practical indeed. The stellar dynamics equations he had taught for years were finally ready for real-world application. Kevin Lane to Project Control, he spoke into his secure communicator. Stellar mechanics calculations are complete and verified. Magnetic field manipulation protocols are loaded and ready for execution. On orbital station, New Horizon Captain, Jake Morrison activated systems that had been hidden in plain sight for decades. The deep space monitoring arrays that aliens had dismissed as asteroid tracking equipment revealed their true purpose. Banks of exotic matter projectors came online throughout human space. New Horizon to Earth Command, Jake reported. Deep Space Monitoring Network is fully operational. Quantum field generators are synchronized and standing by. Dr. Amy Rodriguez monitored alien communications from her laboratory as confusion spread through the coalition fleet. The alien commanders were detecting energy buildups throughout human space, but could not identify their source or purpose. Their most advanced sensors found familiar technologies behaving in completely unfamiliar ways. Admiral, Amy reported to Carter, the aliens are detecting our preparations, but they can't understand what they're seeing. Their science teams are reporting impossible energy readings. Admiral Carter stood in the Earth Defense Command Center surrounded by displays showing the most ambitious engineering project in human history. Decades of careful preparation were about to be revealed. The aliens had come looking for a weapon, and they were about to find something far more impressive. All stations report ready for activation, his tactical officer announced. Carter activated the fleet communication system and addressed the alien coalition directly. Fleet Commander Zixandra, you asked to see our hidden capabilities. We are about to demonstrate why 17 different intelligence sources were concerned about human activities. Please observe carefully. He turned to his operations staff and gave the order that would change everything. Initiate stellar modification protocol. Begin Phase 1 activation. Throughout the solar system, hidden technologies that aliens had examined and dismissed suddenly revealed their true nature. Tony Martinez's communications satellites were actually exotic matter containment fields capable of manipulating space-time itself. The quantum entanglement transmitters began generating gravitational waves on a massive scale. Ryan Clark's mining operations had spent years placing resonance devices deep within planetary cores. The drilling equipment had been modified to create sympathetic vibrations in the gravitational field of Mars itself. As the resonance devices activated, the entire planet began broadcasting specific frequency patterns into space. Similar installations on Earth and the other planets came online simultaneously. Each world in the solar system became a component in an enormous gravitational wave generator. The planets themselves were broadcasting coordinated signals toward the central star. Dr. Kevin Lane's stellar mechanics research proved its value as magnetic field manipulators positioned throughout the system began influencing solar activity. The sun's magnetic field started shifting in response to precisely calculated gravitational influences. Solar flares appeared and disappeared according to human commands. On the alien flagship, Fleet Commander Zixandra watched her sensor displays with growing horror. The energy readings were climbing beyond anything her instruments could measure accurately. The humans weren't just demonstrating a weapon, they were demonstrating control over fundamental forces of nature. "Commander," her science officer reported. "With obvious fear, the humans have turned their entire solar system into some kind of massive engineering project. They're manipulating gravitational fields, planetary cores, and stellar magnetic dynamics simultaneously." "Impossible," Zixandra whispered. "No civilization possesses such capabilities." "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving another transmission from Admiral Carter." Carter's voice carried a note of quiet pride as he explained what the aliens were witnessing. "Fleet Commander, what you are observing is the result of 50 years of careful preparation. We discovered methods for large-scale gravitational manipulation and decided to implement them as a defensive system." The tactical display showed energy patterns that defied every law of physics the aliens understood. The human star was responding to artificial commands. The planets were generating coordinated gravitational fields. Space itself was being manipulated on a scale that should have required the energy output of entire galaxies. Admiral Carter. Zixandra managed to say, "This level of stellar engineering should be impossible for any species," Commander Carter replied patiently. "Humanity has always preferred elegant solutions to brute force approaches. Rather than building weapons to destroy our enemies, we chose to build defenses that make attack impossible." As if to demonstrate his point, the sun itself began to change. Solar activity increased dramatically, but in carefully controlled patterns. The star's energy output shifted across multiple frequency ranges, creating a display visible from the outer planets. "Phase 2 activation," Carter announced calmly. The gravitational wave generators reached full power, and space around the solar system began to bend. The aliens watched in amazement as reality itself seemed to twist and flow according to human will. Their own ships detected massive gravitational anomalies that shouldn't exist outside of black holes or neutron stars. "Commander," the alien science officer reported in a shaking voice, "the humans have created some kind of controlled spatial distortion. They're generating gravitational effects equivalent to stellar collapse, but without any visible mass concentration." Zixandra understood the implications immediately. If humans could manipulate space-time and gravitational fields on such a massive scale, they possessed defensive capabilities beyond imagination. No conventional weapon could penetrate defenses based on fundamental physics. "Admiral Carter," she transmitted with newfound respect, "we begin to..." Fleet Commander Zixandra studied the tactical displays aboard her flagship with growing frustration. 3 days had passed since the ultimatum, and humanity had responded with nothing but polite cooperation. Her sensors detected no hidden weapons. Her inspectors found no threatening technology. Yet 17 different intelligence sources insisted that humans possessed capabilities that could threaten the entire galaxy. Commander. Her tactical officer reported, "The human response has been consistent across all contact points. They claim to be peaceful miners and farmers with no aggressive intentions." Zixandra's 4 primary eyes focused on the tactical display. Human installations throughout the solar system showed normal activity patterns. Mining operations continued, on schedule. Agricultural settlements maintained regular production. Space stations performed routine maintenance duties. "Perhaps our intelligence was incorrect," suggested her science officer. "The humans appear to be exactly what they claim to be." "Impossible," Zixandra replied firmly. 17 separate sources. Cannot all be wrong. The humans are hiding something, and we will find it. She activated the fleet communication system. "All squadron commanders, this is Fleet Command. Prepare for demonstration of force. Select target asteroid designation, Alpha 77. The chosen asteroid was roughly 2 kilometers in diameter and contained no human installations. It orbited harmlessly in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, perfect for showing humanity the consequences of continued resistance. "Commander, demonstration is ready," reported the weapons officer. "All capital ships have target lock." Zixandra gave the order without hesitation. "Fire!" The combined firepower of 50 dreadnoughts struck the asteroid simultaneously. Plasma beams, hot enough to vaporize steel, particle cannons that could penetrate any known armor, fusion warheads that could crack continental plates. The asteroid disappeared in a brilliant flash of light that was visible from Earth. The demonstration took exactly 17 seconds. When the light faded, nothing remained but glowing particles scattered across space. The energy release was equivalent to several thousand nuclear weapons detonated simultaneously. "Transmission to Earth," Zixandra ordered. "Humans, that was a sample of our capabilities. Your continued resistance will result in the same fate for your planet. Surrender immediately." The human response came within minutes. Admiral Carter's voice was calm and professional as always. "Galactic Confederation, that was indeed an impressive light show. Thank you for the demonstration. We appreciate you taking the time to show us your weapons capabilities." Zixandra stared at the communication display in disbelief. The humans had just witnessed firepower capable of destroying their entire world, and their response was to call it a light show. Either they were completely insane, or they possessed defenses beyond her understanding. "Commander, perhaps we should probe their defensive capabilities," suggested the tactical officer. "Send scout ships to test their response to closer approach," Zixandra considered the proposal. Her orders were to avoid unnecessary casualties, but the human attitude was becoming intolerable. "Deploy reconnaissance squadrons. Approach the inner system, but do not cross the orbit of their 4th planet." 20 fast attack ships moved inward toward Earth and Mars. Their sensors were active and their weapons were powered but not aimed at human targets. The mission was information gathering, not destruction. The human response was immediate, but not what anyone expected. Every human ship in the area moved aside to give the alien scouts a clear path. Space traffic controllers provided helpful navigation data. Mining stations offered refueling assistance. "Scout leader to Fleet Command," came the report. "The humans are offering us aid and assistance. They seem genuinely happy to help with our reconnaissance mission." On Earth, President Nancy Foster called another press conference. She stood at the podium with the same calm confidence she had shown since the crisis began. Behind her, a large screen showed the scattered remains of the destroyed asteroid. Ladies and gentlemen, our galactic visitors have demonstrated their military capabilities by destroying an asteroid in our system. This was clearly intended to show us the consequences of continued resistance to their demands. A reporter raised her hand immediately. Madam President, doesn't this demonstration prove that resistance is futile? Shouldn't we surrender to save human lives? Nancy smiled at the question. The demonstration certainly proved that our visitors possess impressive weapons technology. However, they seem to misunderstand our situation. We are peaceful people who have no desire for conflict with anyone. But, Madam President, they're demanding surrender. What else can we do? We can continue to be ourselves, Nancy replied. We are farmers and miners and teachers and engineers. We build things rather than destroy them. We explore rather than conquer. If our visitors find this threatening, then perhaps they need to examine their own assumptions. At MIT, Dr. Kevin Lane continued his physics lectures while alien scout ships passed overhead. His students had grown accustomed to the constant presence of alien vessels. Today's topic was advanced stellar mechanics and the theoretical limits of energy manipulation. Professor asked a graduate student, the aliens just demonstrated enough firepower to destroy planets. How does that compare to stellar energy output? Kevin pulled up a comparison chart on the classroom display. The alien demonstration released approximately 10 to the 18th joules of energy. Impressive by planetary standards. However, our sun releases 10 to the 26 joules every second. The energy difference is comparable to a firecracker versus a nuclear weapon. Another student raised her hand. Professor, are you saying that stellar engineering could produce weapons more powerful than entire alien fleets? I'm saying that stars contain energy reserves that make conventional weapons look like children's toys. A civilization capable of stellar manipulation could defend itself against any conventional threat simply by redirecting a tiny fraction of that energy. The classroom fell silent as students considered the implications. Outside the windows, alien scout ships continued their reconnaissance flights, looking for threats they could not recognize or understand. In the asteroid belt, engineer Tony Martinez completed his daily maintenance routine on the communication satellites. The alien scouts had examined his work several times and found nothing but standard quantum entanglement transmitters. They detected no exotic technologies or unusual energy signatures. Tony whistled his favorite tune while he calibrated the exotic matter containment fields that the aliens mistook for navigation beacons. The fields were operating perfectly within normal parameters. All systems showed green across the board. Station Alpha to Engineer Martinez, came the radio call. How are the satellite adjustments progressing? All within normal parameters. Tony replied cheerfully. The quantum field harmonics are stable, and the gravitational resonance patterns are nominal. Should be finished with the calibrations by end of shift. An alien scout ship passed nearby and conducted another detailed scan of Tony's work. The aliens detected sophisticated communication equipment and standard navigation aids. Their sensors found no weapons or defensive systems, nothing that seemed threatening or unusual. The scout ship moved on to examine other human installations. Tony continued his work with quiet satisfaction. The aliens were looking for the wrong things in the wrong places. They expected to find weapons when humans had built something much more elegant. On Mars Colony, Administrator Ryan Clark received a visit from alien inspectors who wanted to examine the mining operations. He gave them a complete tour of the facilities with genuine enthusiasm for his work. "This is our primary extraction site," Ryan explained as they walked through the mining complex. "We're pulling ice and rare minerals from deep underground deposits. The work is difficult but very rewarding." The alien inspector examined the massive drilling equipment with obvious confusion. "Administrator Clark, our intelligence suggests your species has developed technologies that could threaten galactic stability. We find no evidence of such capabilities." Ryan looked genuinely puzzled by the statement. "Threatening technologies. We're miners, not weapons manufacturers. Our most advanced equipment is designed for digging holes in the ground." The inspector studied the mining data on his portable scanner. The humans were extracting water ice for life support and rare earth elements for electronics manufacturing. Standard colonial operations with no military applications. "Perhaps our information was incorrect," the inspector admitted. "Your activities appear completely peaceful." Ryan smiled broadly. "Of course they're peaceful. We came to Mars to build a better life for our families, not to threaten anyone. Why would we want to fight with aliens when we could trade with them instead?" Back on Earth, Admiral Carter reviewed the reports from alien reconnaissance activities. The scouts had examined every human installation in the inner solar system. Their findings were consistent across all contact points. Humanity possessed defensive capabilities that were respectable but not exceptional. Dr. Amy Rodriguez entered the command center with the latest translation of alien communications. "Admiral, the aliens are beginning to question their own intelligence." Reports. "Several species are suggesting that the threat assessment was completely wrong." The morning news broadcast began like any other day. Steve Parker sat behind his desk with the same professional smile he had worn for 15 years. Behind him, a graphic showed the alien fleet positions around Earth. "Good morning, this is Channel 7 News. The Galactic Confederation fleet remains positioned throughout our solar system as negotiations continue. Weather today will be partly cloudy with highs reaching 72 degrees. Traffic on the downtown connector is moving smoothly despite ongoing construction. In classrooms across Earth, children attended their regular lessons. At Lincoln Elementary, schoolteacher Helen Brooks pointed to a map of the solar system. Red dots marked the positions of alien warships. "Now, class, can anyone tell me how many planets the alien ships are orbiting?" she asked. 8-year-old Katie Sullivan raised her hand eagerly. "All of them, Mrs. Brooks. Even little Pluto has 3 big ships watching it." "Very good, Katie. And why do you think they positioned ships around every planet?" Katie thought for a moment. "Because they want to make sure nobody can run away." "That's exactly right. The aliens are using what we call a blockade formation. They learned this strategy from studying military history. Meanwhile, on Mars Colony, Administrator Ryan Clark reviewed the daily mining reports. Overhead, 3 massive alien dreadnoughts hung in the rust-colored sky like metal moons. The mining crews continued their work as if nothing had changed. "Production is up 12% this week," his assistant reported. "The new excavation sites are yielding excellent results." Ryan nodded and signed the reports. Through his office window, he could see human workers operating massive drilling equipment. The alien ships cast long shadows across the mining fields, but nobody seemed to notice or care. "Sir, shouldn't we be concerned about the alien ships?" his assistant asked. "They could attack at any moment." Ryan looked up from his paperwork with mild surprise. "Attack us for what reason? We're just mining ice and minerals. Nothing threatening about that." In the asteroid belt mining station, Alpha continued its operations under the watchful eyes of alien patrol ships. Engineer Tony Martinez worked on routine maintenance of the communication satellites that surrounded the station. He whistled an old song while he calibrated the exotic matter containment fields. The alien ships had tried to scan the satellites several times, but found only standard communication equipment. Their sensors detected normal quantum entanglement, transmitters, and basic navigation beacons. Nothing that seemed dangerous or unusual. Tony finished his calibrations and checked the power readings. Everything showed green across the board. The containment fields were operating at optimal efficiency. He made a note in his maintenance log and moved on to the next satellite. On Earth, Dr. Amy Rodriguez studied intercepted alien communications in her laboratory. The translation software had improved dramatically over the past few days. She could now understand most of the conversations between alien ship commanders. The discussions revealed growing confusion and frustration. The alien species had formed their coalition based on specific intelligence about human activities. They believed Earth had developed some kind of ultimate weapon that threatened galactic stability. "Admiral Carter, you need to hear this," Amy said, over the communication channel. "The aliens are arguing among themselves about human psychology." Carter's voice came through clearly. "What kind of arguments, Doctor?" "They can't understand why we haven't surrendered yet. Some species think we're planning a surprise attack. Others believe we're too primitive to understand the situation. A few are wondering if their intelligence was wrong." Amy continued translating the alien discussions. "The hegemony representatives insisted that humans possessed dangerous technology. The Federation delegates questioned whether the threat was real. The consortium admirals demanded immediate action to prevent human treachery." "Sir, there's something else," Amy added. "They keep mentioning 17 different intelligence reports. 17 separate sources, all claiming humanity has built something that could destroy entire star systems." Carter was quiet for a long moment. "Doctor, how many alien species are in the coalition fleet?" 17, sir. "The same number as the intelligence." "Reports. Interesting coincidence," Carter replied. "Continue monitoring their communications. Let me know if their tone changes." In deep space, Captain Jake Morrison watched alien patrol ships conduct routine sweeps of human installations. The aliens were thorough and professional. They scanned every space station and every mining facility. They mapped every satellite and every communication relay. Their sensors found exactly what they expected to find: human technology that was advanced but not threatening, defensive capabilities that were respectable but not overwhelming, nothing that justified the massive coalition response. "Captain, the alien commander is requesting permission to inspect our station," Lisa Chang reported. "They want to examine our defensive systems." Jake considered the request. The aliens had been polite so far. They hadn't attacked or made any aggressive moves. They were simply trying to understand what they were dealing with. "Grant them permission," Jake decided. "Full cooperation with their inspection." An hour later, alien inspectors came aboard New Horizons Station. They were professional and courteous. Their scanning equipment was far more advanced than anything humans possessed. They examined every system and every component with careful attention. The lead inspector was a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and large compound eyes. It spoke through a translation device in perfect English. "Captain Morrison, your defensive systems are well designed but not exceptional. We detect no unusual energy signatures or exotic technologies." Jake nodded politely. "We've always focused on practical solutions rather than advanced research. Our technology serves our needs without being flashy." The inspector seemed puzzled by this response. "Captain, our intelligence report suggested your species had developed weapons of extraordinary power. We find no evidence of such capabilities." Perhaps your intelligence was incorrect, Jake suggested. We're a peaceful people who prefer mining and farming to weapons development. After the inspection, the aliens departed looking confused and frustrated. Jake watched their shuttle return to the massive command ship that hung in space like a dark mountain. On Earth, President Nancy Foster held a press conference in the White House Rose Garden. The questions from reporters were predictable, and she answered them with practiced ease. Madam President, how long will negotiations with the aliens continue? Asked one reporter. As long as necessary to reach a peaceful understanding, she replied. We're committed to diplomatic solutions. Are you concerned about the military superiority of the alien fleet? Nancy smiled calmly. Every situation has multiple dimensions. Military power is only one factor in any negotiation. Madam President, some people are calling for immediate surrender to prevent human casualties. What is your response? The American people have never surrendered to threats, and we won't start now. However, we also believe in peaceful coexistence with our galactic neighbors. We're confident that reasonable beings can find reasonable solutions. At Princeton University, Dr. Kevin Lane taught his advanced physics class as if nothing unusual was happening. The subject was theoretical applications of stellar dynamics. His students took notes while alien warships passed overhead like dark clouds. Professor Lane. One student asked, is it true that stars can be artificially modified to produce specific energy outputs? Kevin smiled at the question. Theoretically, yes. With sufficient understanding of fusion dynamics and magnetic field manipulation, a civilization could alter stellar behavior. Of course, such modifications would require technology far beyond our current capabilities. But if someone did have that technology, what could they accomplish? Hypothetically, they could turn a star into anything they wanted. A defensive barrier, a power source, even a weapon if they were so inclined. The energy output of a single star exceeds the combined military power of every civilization in the galaxy. The student looked thoughtful. Professor, have humans ever attempted stellar modification? Research. Kevin's smile widened slightly. That would be telling, wouldn't it? Let's just say that theoretical research often leads to practical applications given enough time and resources. Back in the command center, Admiral Carter reviewed status reports from across the solar system. Every human installation reported normal operations. Every alien demand had been met with polite cooperation. Every inspection had revealed exactly what the inspectors expected to find. The aliens were growing increasingly frustrated with human responses. They had come expecting to find a dangerous enemy armed with terrible weapons. Instead, they found farmers and miners who seemed genuinely puzzled by the accusations. Carter smiled as he read the latest intelligence summary. The alien coalition was beginning to doubt their own information. Some species were suggesting that the threat assessment had been completely wrong. Sir, his aide asked, when do we reveal the truth? Carter looked at the tactical display showing alien ship positions. 10,000 vessels armed with enough firepower to destroy planets, all of them waiting for humanity to show its hidden weapons. Not yet, Carter replied. Let them watch a little longer. Let them wonder what they're missing. The longer they wait, the more dramatic the revelation will be. Captain Jake Morrison sipped his coffee and watched the stars through the observation deck of Orbital Station New Horizon. The coffee was terrible as always, but it kept him awake during the night shift. His console showed the usual peaceful readings from deep space scanners. Nothing ever happened out here in the void between Earth and the outer planets. Lisa Chang sat at her communications station running through routine checks. She had been monitoring deep space frequencies for 3 years and never heard anything more interesting than solar wind interference. Her fingers moved across the control panel with practiced ease. The night shift was quiet and boring, just like every other night shift. The first reading appeared as a tiny blip on her screen. Lisa frowned and adjusted the sensitivity settings. The blip grew larger. Then it split into 2 blips, then 4, then dozens. She leaned forward and her coffee mug slipped from her fingers. "Captain Morrison," she called out. Her voice cracked slightly. "You need to see this." Jake walked over to her station, still holding his coffee cup. He looked at the display and his expression changed from mild curiosity to complete shock. The screen showed hundreds of contacts emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. More ships appeared every second. "Are those readings correct?" Jake asked quietly. Lisa ran a diagnostic check on her equipment. Everything showed green. She switched to backup sensors. The readings remained the same. "Sir, the computers confirm over 3,000 ships and more arriving every minute." Jake set down his coffee cup with a steady hand. He had trained for this moment his entire career, but never believed it would actually happen. First contact with alien civilizations. He activated the emergency communication channel to Earth Defense Command. "Earth Control. This is New Horizon. Station. We have multiple unknown contacts entering the solar system. Repeat, multiple unknown contacts. Estimated count exceeds 3,000 vessels and climbing." The response came back immediately. Admiral Ben Carter's voice was calm and professional. "New Horizon, we copy your report. Continue monitoring and relay all data to Fleet Command. Do not attempt contact until further orders." On Earth, Admiral Carter stood in the command center watching the same readings on much larger screens. Officers moved around him with quiet efficiency. Nobody panicked. Nobody shouted. They had prepared for this possibility for decades. Dr. Amy Rodriguez entered the command center carrying a data pad. She was Earth's leading expert on xenobiology and had spent years studying theoretical alien psychology. "Admiral, the ships are arranging themselves in standard battle formation, multiple species based on the different energy signatures." "How many species?" Carter asked. "At least 15 distinct propulsion systems. Possibly more," Amy replied. "This is a coalition fleet, Admiral. They came here together for a specific purpose." Carter nodded slowly. He had expected this day would come eventually. Humanity had been preparing quietly for years. "What's our final count on their numbers?" A young officer at a nearby console spoke up. "Sir, we're tracking over 10,000 vessels now. The largest ships are massive, dreadnought class or bigger." Carter walked to the main display screen. The enemy fleet stretched across space in perfect military formation. Their ships surrounded the solar system like a closing fist. Any normal civilization would surrender immediately when faced with such overwhelming force. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer announced. "They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Universal translation protocols engaged." "Put it through," Carter ordered. The voice that filled the command center was artificial and emotionless. It spoke in perfect English with no accent or inflection. "Humans of the planet Earth, you are surrounded by the combined fleets of the Galactic Confederation. We know about your secret weapon development. We know about your plans to threaten galactic stability. You will surrender immediately and submit to Confederation oversight. You have one standard: data comply." The transmission ended. The command center fell silent. Carter looked around at his officers. Nobody seemed surprised or frightened. They had known this conversation would happen someday. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Amy asked. Carter smiled slightly. It was not a happy smile, but it was confident. "Open a channel to the alien fleet," the communications officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." Carter spoke in the same calm tone he used for routine operations. "Galactic Confederation, this is Admiral Ben Carter of Earth Defense Command. We have received your message and we will consider your terms. Please make yourselves comfortable in our system while we discuss your proposal." He gestured to cut the transmission. The command center remained quiet. Several officers exchanged glances, but nobody questioned his response. "Sir, shouldn't we mobilize the fleet?" a tactical officer asked. "The fleet is already in position," Carter replied. "They have been for weeks. Continue normal operations. Monitor the alien ships, but take no aggressive action." Dr. Rodriguez studied the readings from the alien fleet. Their ships used technologies far beyond anything humanity possessed publicly. Plasma weapons that could destroy planets, shield systems that could deflect entire nuclear arsenals, faster-than-light drives that made human technology look primitive. "Admiral, they could destroy our entire civilization with ease," she said quietly. "Why aren't we evacuating the major cities?" Carter looked at her with the same calm expression. "Doctor, how long have you been working on the xenobiology project?" "7 years, sir." "Since the program began. And in all that time, did you ever wonder why we were so confident about eventual alien contact?" Amy thought about the question. The government had always seemed remarkably prepared for first contact scenarios. Training programs, protocols, contingency plans, almost as if they knew aliens would arrive someday. "Sir, are you saying we knew they were coming?" "We knew someone would come eventually," Carter said. "We've been preparing for this exact situation. The Alien Confederation is afraid of humanity for good reason. They just don't understand what that reason actually is." On the orbital station, Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet through his telescopes. Their ships were beautiful in a terrifying way, sleek hulls covered with weapon ports, energy shields, that bent light around their edges. Some ships were kilometers long. Others moved with impossible grace despite their massive size. "Captain, the aliens are deploying patrol ships throughout the system," Lisa reported. "They're setting up a complete blockade," Jake nodded. The aliens were being thorough. No human ship could leave the solar system without their permission. Any normal military force would be trapped completely. "Continue monitoring their movements. Record everything. Sir, shouldn't we be scrambling fighters or something?" Lisa asked. "They have us completely surrounded." Jake looked at her with a slight smile. "Lisa, how long have you been stationed on this platform?" 3 years, sir. And in all that time, have you ever wondered what those deep space monitoring arrays were really monitoring?" Lisa thought about the massive sensor networks that surrounded human space. They were supposedly designed to track asteroids and comets, but they were far too sophisticated for such simple tasks. "Sir, what are you saying?" "I'm saying we've been watching for visitors for a very long time," Jake replied. "And we've been preparing for exactly this kind of visit." Back on Earth, Admiral Carter received reports from stations throughout the solar system. The alien fleet had positioned itself with military precision. They controlled every possible escape route. Their weapons were powered and ready. Their shields were active. They clearly intended to back up their demands with overwhelming force. Carter reviewed the data one more time. 10,000 ships, 17 different alien species, weapons that could sterilize planets, the most powerful military force in Galactic. History had come to Earth with one simple demand. He activated his personal communication device and sent a coded message to stations throughout human space. The message contained only 2 words, but they would change everything. Phase 1. The reply came back within minutes from every human installation in the solar system. The same 2 words repeated over and over. Acknowledged, sir.